How's it going, everybody? So today in this video we're going to be talking about how to obtain your blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So we'll get started right now. What's up, everyone? My name is Chase. I'm a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I've been training for over 10 years now. I've been teaching and instructing on some form of a level for close to 8 years now. And this is probably one of the most common questions that I get asked by students and new people who are wanting to train. What are the most common ways that people obtain their blue belt and the time period and everything like that. So before we get started, make sure if you like this video, you give it a like down below. Also, I would love it if you guys hit the subscribe button. I do all things Jiu-Jitsu. I do techniques, I do narrative sparring, I do Jiu-Jitsu talks like this. So if you guys like Jiu-Jitsu, this is probably a pretty good channel for you guys. There's really basically three things that most academies kind of look at when they promote somebody to a blue belt, I would say. So these are just three of the most common things. I'm not saying it's the only things, and I'm not saying that every academy does it like this, but in my 10 years of experience, this is how I see most schools grade upon students to blue belt. So as a quick note here, I'm gonna also put in the description down below, I'm gonna put the time marks of each one that I talk about. So that way, if you need to come back to this video or you want to start over again or you just want to fast forward to a new part, you can hit the parts down below. So the first thing, and this is in no particular order, this is no order of importance into what they grade upon. This is just the first thing that comes to my mind. First thing is mat time or class time or length of time, right? So it's one of those aspects typically. So if it is, each school kind of does it differently based upon what they think is important and what the instructor thinks is important. So some schools just do a very generic, hey, you have to train with us for this long, you have to train for at least a minimum of 1 year before you can get your blue belt. They put kind of a hard and fast time limit or a minimum time limit that you have to have trained before you can get on, before you can go to your blue belt. Some other schools, they don't necessarily do it by like a length of time. It's maybe by class times, how many classes have you attended, kind of like that, or how many hours have you trained. They have like some form of a tracking system. School kind of has a minimum that they may use depending on whether it's like a full-blown length of time or if it is attendance and class time. Another aspect that you can get into is also stripes. Typically most belts, you can get a maximum of 4 stripes on the belt. That's the maximum you can get usually on a belt. Doesn't matter which belt, except for black belt. But you typically get 4 stripes. And so each school kind of determines when you're up for your stripe, and that may be a certain length of time. And then once you get your 4 stripes, now you're ready for your blue belt. Time is a big component, whether it's length of time, class time, or whatever. My school does it, the school that I train at and I teach at, it's not necessarily a hard and fast length of time. It's not like, hey, it's a minimum of a year. We do it by attendance. So it's not that just because you come to this many classes, you immediately get a blue belt, but they have to have attended so many classes. So that lets me know that if they have to attend this many classes, they have a minimum class attendance they have to attend. And if it's an hour-long class, and let's say it's 100 hours, well then I know they've been training for 100 hours. I don't care how fast they do that in. If they want to do private lessons, if they want to come to 2 or 3 classes a week, or 2 or 3 classes a day, however they want to do it, right? They have to come to this many hours. That just gives us a comfortability as an instructor knowing that this person has put in this much mat time, as opposed to just saying, oh, you have to be doing it for at least a year. If a person has the luxury and the financial capability just to come all the time, then they may get faster than that. Now, with that being said, even though we have kind of a minimum time, like hours wise, I do know a typical average at our school. Most commonly, it takes someone about anything between a year to a year and a half to get their blue belt. And I would say that's pretty average at most schools, a year to year and a half. Some schools it's a little bit longer, some schools it may be like 2 years. But I would say to get a Jiu-Jitsu blue belt in general, no matter what school you're gonna go to, I would say between a year and 2 years. Now, obviously, the more that you train and the more that you stay on it, the faster you're gonna be. You may get done before a year, depending on that school's idea, or if you're just coming very sporadically and not being consistent and all those other things and it takes you a minute, then you may be closer to the 2 years. Second option, number 2, right? Curriculum and techniques. Some schools have a curriculum and some schools don't have a curriculum. To become a Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, some schools may make you demonstrate a certain knowledge of techniques, right? So this kind of starts from when you first walk into the academy, day 1, and you're maybe taking a basics class. A lot of schools will have a basics program and you have to go to that basics class so many times and you have to attend it. And in order for you to get your blue belt, you may have to know the curriculum and then you may have to demonstrate the techniques. I have seen this vary at some academies. Some schools have a very strict curriculum and some have more of what I would call a guideline, which strict curriculum, I would consider that they expect you to know the technique a specific way. So it has to be this grip. Your foot has to go here. You have to demonstrate the move the exact way I show you. That would be a very specific and exact curriculum. If it's more of a guideline, they may tell you, hey, you got to show me 4 mount submissions. It's up to you to pick the mount submissions, but you got to show me 4, right? So they have more of guidelines, or they want you to show me 3 takedowns, 3 sweeps, 3 whatever, 3 plug and play, or whatever they choose. Each school is going to differ based upon that is curriculum. So remember, first was mat time or length of time or how much have you been coming, right? Second is curriculum. Some schools have a very hard and fast curriculum, strict curriculum, and they expect you to demonstrate the techniques a specific way, and some schools have more of a guideline. Me personally, at our academy, we have a very strict curriculum. I think that's better for new student retention to learn the move the same way every single time until they get to a certain point, because I think it builds retention better. So now the third thing that a lot of schools take into consideration when they want to promote a student to blue belt is a form of a test or a demonstration of knowledge of some extent. Demonstrating the techniques. That a lot of times is done in a test where people schedule a time, they get with an instructor or a group or whatever, and they want to demonstrate that they know this curriculum or guidelines from option number 2 that we talked about, or thing number 2 that we talked about, right? It typically is conducted 2 ways. The first way is if it's a strict curriculum, well, obviously that's easy. You have to demonstrate the exact way that instructor expects you to know the moves, and you have to demonstrate it like that. So it's just a straight up test. It's show up, demonstrate the move the way I tell you to do it, show me them all, okay, I grade you, make sure it's all good, and there's that testing procedure. And then sometimes, a lot of times, there's like a sparring aspect to it. They want to see you roll, they want to see you spar, they want to see how you do under a live situation, and that goes on there. Sometimes happens in a test environment is if it's more of a guideline aspect, it's just you demonstrating those 4 mount escapes or 4 mount submissions that whatever, and you get to pick. So you have to demonstrate those and the instructor's grading upon that, and then there's a sparring section. With the sparring section, sometimes it can just be with the instructor, sometimes it can be with people your same rank. So if you're a white belt, you're sparring with other white belts, and sometimes they have you spar with the blue belt just to see how you do competitively. I personally think that the instructors at most jiu-jitsu schools, especially if you have a hands-on instructor, they're always kind of hovering over the class and doing in-class evaluation. They're always kind of watching you in class. They're always kind of seeing how it's going. What a lot of schools will use instead of a live testing is they do tournaments. So an instructor will maybe know where you're at in class. They've been watching you in class, or you're doing whatever you need to do, and then you go out, and how you perform at a tournament is what they use to gauge if you're ready to be promoted. And it's not always that you have to win the tournament, it's just how did you perform? How did you perform with other people that were your skill set and everything like that, depending on the tournament, right? And they use that to grade you. I personally like the live testing aspect. Like I said, we have a strict curriculum at my school. So a student, needs to demonstrate that curriculum in live. The reason why I like that and not necessarily the tournament aspect is because sometimes students just don't perform well in tournaments. This is ultimately jiu-jitsu is for themselves. It's that they want to learn self-defense. You want to grow yourself internally. And to judge someone based upon how they did in a tournament, and that's when they get their blue belt or not, to me, I'm not a huge fan of that. I prefer the live element, demonstrating the live techniques, the exact way that we expect it, the way that we want it done, and then, they do a sparring in the academy. Kind of to close it out here, right, we have 3 things that most schools take into consideration. It's mat time, right, or length of time, basically how much time have you been training. Option number 2 was knowledge of curriculum or techniques, so you understand what techniques are needed of you, what techniques you need to become a blue belt. And the third thing is application of those moves, either in like a live test, a demonstration, in a tournament live. And then all those aspects is what most academies use to judge a person if they're ready for their blue belt. Like I said, at most schools, this typically takes anything from a year to 2 years to do. I would say that's pretty safe. At our academy, we've had people go faster, and we've had people take longer than 2 years as well too. Personally, am in favor of a strict curriculum, using that as opposed to just in-class evaluation and just kind of maybe thinking that the student might be ready and then using a tournament. I like the organized structure. If you don't know these things and you're lost, or you're maybe trying to check out a jiu-jitsu school and you came to this video because you want to become a blue belt eventually and you maybe came for some tips, I would really ask that. When you get to the academy and they're telling you everything and you want to know how long it takes to get a blue belt and what do you need to do, ask the instructor. That way you can prepare yourself as best as possible for that, right? In a future video, I'm going to talk about how to, become a purple belt, and that's going to be different. How to become a brown belt and a black belt. I'm going to do one for each belt. So you should always be asking, what does it take to become that next belt? And I personally think each school should have a plan. But, jiu-jitsu, it varies at different places and everything. So you may like the vibe where it's very laid back and the instructor knows best, so I'm just gonna wait for the instructor to tell me and we go from there. That's how jiu-jitsu's been done for a long time. So a lot of places that do it like that, and there's some schools that have a written plan and they tell you exactly what you need to know at each belt and kind of guide you along the way, and it kind of helps you keep motivated because you have a goal to reach for. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully this helped you out. Let me know if you have any questions about this video down in the comments below. Also, make sure you say your experience. If you're a blue belt, what did you have to do to become a blue belt? Or, what would you wish you would have done? Just put something down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. I appreciate you guys truly tuning in to these videos. I like doing them. Hopefully you guys like hearing them. Hopefully it can help at least 1 or 2 people. That's what it's mainly for. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. And yeah, take it easy. Peace out.